So I'm Katy Barrett.
I'm Sophie,
and we are on a research project in the History of Science department, joint with the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich, which is on the border of longitude in the 18th century. I do history of art within that.
I'm a historian of science, working at the end of the period, at the beginning of the 19th century.
And we were disappointed last year, the year before last, that we found there weren't many seminar programmes in, or there weren't any seminar programmes in either the history faculty or the history of science department that focused on the 18th century.
So we thought it would be a good idea to set one up, basically, and we came over to CRASSH to ask them what they thought of doing it, and were very supportive and positive, and we tried to figure out a good way to make it more interdisciplinary so that we would be able to communicate with people in the history faculty and the English faculty and museums and geography. And Katy came up with a very good idea of making it
material culture, which has worked out very well.
Yeah.
We what we did, the great thing about CRASSH is that it's allowed us to have a slightly different format to what we would have done in our own department, and I'd have thought in the history faculty as well, in that we have two speakers each time talking to either an object or a way of thinking about objects from different perspectives. So we've had curators, we've had scholars, we've had artists.
What has been really good is the response that we've had to things. We seem to have sort of struck a rich vein of interest in a lot of different scholarly pursuits: history, English, geography, archaeology, anthropology. We've had anthropologists.
Yes.
And yeah, we've had a really positive response to the seminar series, and we've never had anyone say they couldn't come and speak for us, which is a great honour. And we've managed to collect some really quite esteemed members of academia and sort of the museum world come and talk to us. And yeah, we've learnt a lot.
Yeah, we have, and we've had good opportunities come out of it. We've been invited to go and speak at other things. We probably both think about material culture in a different way.
Yeah, it's definitely affected my own research and my own PhD and how that's progressing. And we've had massive international collaborations, I should mention those, with UC Riverside and the Huntington's Institute of
Early Modern Studies Institute.
Which has been really great to hear from different groups and to hear a sort of different material cultures perspective that's happening across the pond. Has been really fantastic, and we're kind of working with them in the hopes of, with UC Riverside, in the hopes of producing a publication in the next few years to do with all the different seminars that we've had.
Because this is our second year as a CRASSH graduate research group, we thought we'd challenge ourselves a bit more. So we changed our attitude, or the way we conceptualised the seminars a bit more. So whereas last year we did it around specific objects, so we had seminars on
coins,
ships, fashion, plants, etc. This year we've tried to make it more about sort of attitudes to objects. So we've had
worshipping things and
medical things,
curing things,
conserving things.
So it becomes more conceptual in how people, rather than just being on the object itself, becomes more about how we interact with the object, which has been a big step up, I think, intellectually, and also ensuring that people understand what the seminar's about and come along to the sessions. We've had to advertise a bit more and make sure people know what we're talking about when we have slightly more esoteric session titles like rematerialising things. It could go very Star Trek if we're not careful.
It could go very Star Trek. And it's a bit more of a challenge when you're chairing as well, because you have to make more of an effort with the questions. I think people are more loath to ask the first question in those kind of sessions, so you've got to be ready with a
But it's been a good growth process, going from what little we or I knew about material culture into learning an incredible amount of knowledge, actually, as well as meeting a lot of really interesting people and talking to a lot of different people who have very different perspectives on how history should be done and how we should understand the past. Has been really good and really interesting.
So the seminar's developed its own agency, you might say.
It has, goodness. How ironic. Is that ironic? Yeah, that's ironic. This time coming up we've got Desmond Shaw Taylor, who's the
keeper of the Queen's pictures,
coming to talk to us, and we've also got Simon Schaffer coming to talk to us about
automata,
and Yeah, those are a few of the highlights, but the whole session looks really good.
And the end of the whole series, the final session, very excited. We're having Mark Hallett come, who is the new head of the Paul Mellon Centre for British Art in London. So that's going to be a good
exciting
finale, hopefully. And we might even be we're trying at the moment to add an extra special session in this term, because we had one that we didn't manage to fit in, which we're going to try and get.
So we're just trying to wedge everything.
Auction houses to come and talk to us about selling things as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be another dynamic to hear from the auction people.
Watch this space. So we set up a blog through WordPress when we started, where we put a summary of each session along which links to the podcasts, which CRASSH help us to do. That's another very good thing about CRASSH, that we can record the sessions, and we get really good hit rate, actually, about 100 hits per recording.
Yeah, and Simon Schaffer and Nick Thomas's first opening session for things last year, which is still online, has 416 hits.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
One of the things we did this year was I started live tweeting the seminars, which was something I got into over the summer, and which Ruth does particularly well for CRASSH as well, which I found really interesting and definitely reaches out to a different group of people, and you get people asking questions live to you when you're tweeting. Can be a bit challenging to try and, especially when you're chairing, to try and live tweet and pick up questions at the same time, but we'll see how that goes later in the term. And then I've also been storifying the tweets along with the audios on the website and sending those around the list, and those seem to have had a good